you're here for what actually lasts. This is The Long Game, where PR meets relationship marketing. Real talk, real leaders, and real results. We're cutting through the noise to show how credibility, connection, and consistency builds brands that endure. So whether you're an overwhelmed digital marketer, a business owner trying to stand out, or a thought leader ready to just level up, welcome to The Long Game. Because building something that lasts takes heart. So let's welcome your host, Jeremy Knopf and Jessica Suter. Let's go. All right, hello, and happy Tuesday. It's Long Game Day, and today we're diving into the world of ads. Meta ads, to be more specific. So whether you're already running meta ads and already know that it's changed quite a bit in this past year already, or you're thinking about running some new ads, you are in for a treat because we have a special guest with us here today, the one and only Tony Christensen of Tony Does Ads. We've been friends for a long time. This man knows his stuff. So Jeremy and I are ready to dive in to the worlds of ads as we welcome Tony to the stage. How's it going, Tony?
Hello, it's going good. Excited to be here and dive in on all the whirlwind of changes Meta's had this year.
It's definitely become a bit of a quagmire lately.
Yeah, definitely.
We get to speak your favorite topic, ads. Tony does ads. Tony talks all about ads and constantly getting his brain picked. So we're just going to do some more of that today and add some value to the community here. If you have a question, feel free to drop it in the comments, but we're going to hit the ground running because there's a lot of content to cover as it relates to ads. So Tony, I'm going to give you a hard one right out of the gate. So if you had to summarize the state of meta ads in one sentence for 2026, with all the changes that they've done with AI and everything else, what would you say?
Yeah, I think it's a good strong question to start us off here. I think it's a combination of a ton of change, AI, and huge creative kind of needs, I would say. So yeah, just a big, evolving, chaotic platform at the moment. Yeah.
That it is.
Tony, I'm going to throw something at you real quick while you're here. There's a big problem kind of related to ads, not directly, but it's a problem I've seen a lot of people face, whether it's people doing their own ads or people working with an agency. And that is all of the AI moderation, I guess, for lack of a better term. But like I'm seeing people's accounts get shut down. I'm seeing their both their profile and their ad accounts and all that getting suspended, shut down. Zero support, zero way to actually reach out to anybody. How are you guys dealing with that kind of stuff?
You're going to love this answer because it's coming from a rep. We had a high spending client ad account go down, and you think we would, as a meta ad agency and partner, we would get support right away. But no, we're kind of in the same ballpark of like, let's just raise a bunch of tickets. I'm reading the comments. I should not be paying attention to these. These are great. But basically what we got out of it, we kept reaching out to a rep and escalating it to the contacts that we have at Meta. Yeah, you're right. They're really leaning way more into AI moderation. There's all sorts of things wrongfully getting flagged now, which is a big pain when they even shouldn't be. This case, I think the specific case, it was like a client's updated their card, but I think they were in Canada or something. So they like flagged it. It was like, this doesn't seem right, and like flagged it because of the location. The terrible advice I got, but this is like literally the state of where ads are right now with Meta, is the rep basically said, keep submitting a ticket every day until your problem gets solved. So as terrible as it is, this is legit coming from Meta's reps, is yes, there are so many siloed processes where, you make a ticket, it goes to a team, that team doesn't figure it out, they escalate it, they send it to someone else, they send it to someone else. It might take 2-3 days until you hear back, and then it's a copy paste terrible response that makes no sense. This stuff does happen even for me. More recently, I had someone, I would think I'm the 5th person I got a hold of on the phone. They said, oh, you're still in the learning phase. That's why your ad account isn't spending money. And I was like, we were spending $5,000 yesterday on ads. Today we spent $0. You mean to tell me like the ads are learning, which is why we're not there? And they just had no clue. So it's terrible, but like the best advice I would say is literally make a new ticket every day until you get the answer that you want, until you get that ad account back up, if you can get that back up. Yeah, I'm the bearer of bad news here. Just like the state of Meta right now. And it's sad, honestly.
Well,
yeah.
but you have that privilege because we're Meta Ads partners as well, right? So I think you kind of answered a question though. Go to someone that knows their stuff, like you, or somebody that does have access to be able to talk to a rep to get that advice, because it changes all the time, and knowing what's going to move the needle to get you faster to your end result, which is running successful ads, right? So with all these changes and what Jeremy had mentioned with AI, and I know Meta's doubled down on AI integration with, changing your photos into videos and generating copy for you and all the things. I'm not sure that I necessarily am ready to go down that path yet, because I feel like they still have some work to do. But we did ask our Social Media Week Lima community, what best advice, like, what do you think is the most impactful when it comes to building a successful ad? Is it the creative? Is it the copy? Is it the targeting? Like, what goes into that from your expert opinion, from the brands that you've worked with? I know small when you worked with us, to you're working with large companies that can spend 5,000 plus a day, on ads.
Yeah, we're working with like some really big, sophisticated brands, places that are like, in retail, and they're doing all sorts of different plays, spending a lot of money in different countries and all sorts of stuff. And I often get on calls, we do audits and talk with people all the time, and they're like, what structure should we roll out? How do we do, the creative testing and things like that? And I'm like, if you put all of this, and to answer your question, I would say creative is really the main thing now that Meta is pushing the most, and that they're wanting the most, with a lot of the AI changes that we can maybe talk about. But yeah, most of these brands I talk to, I'm like, if all of these questions and the efforts that you're giving me on like, how would you run this? How much would you spend per each ad? What would you do to kill things? I'm like, if you put all that energy into just making creative for your personas and getting into varieties of creative, which we can get into, that's going to give you like that 80-20. That's going to give you your biggest impact in the ad account versus like the structure of how you build it. That's like Facebook's getting really, really good at figuring it out for you, even if you build it wrong. There's still obviously best practices we can talk about, but usually it's like put all of your effort or most of your effort into creative volume, creative variety for your specific personas. And that'll give you like the results that you're wanting way more than like worried about how you set it up in Meta Ads Manager. Yeah.
Because you have to stop the scroll, right? Like, so even if you're targeting the right person, but it's not appealing to stop the scroll, then what's the point? So what are some of the creative like advice that you would give?
Yeah. The fun part too with us, like over the years growing the agency, is we're working with the bigger brands, and a lot of the bigger brands want the really polished, clean logos on everything. And like, I try to inch them away from that. And that's kind of the advice I would give. There's a lot of variety, which I tell the people, creative variety really wins these days. With variety, I mean, different polish levels are still good, but just know the more logos you put on stuff, the more brand polish it has. Facebook really does treat it almost like a bottom of funnel ad now, even though you're running it as a broad ad to a huge audience. That's kind of the best practice now, is you usually keep your targeting open pretty wide now. It's really driven by the creative. So that's, again, why creative is so key. The more polished things we have, they really run that more to specific audiences that are more like your website visitors, engaged audiences. And now they're showing that branded polished things to those people, because they know people that don't know about your brand probably aren't going to care about that ad. So it's not going to really convert, or they'll charge you more to kind of force that to those audiences. So really it's like all about getting creative variety. So with that, we kind of have a creative matrix that we developed, and it's really like, think about all the different ad types. So like a carousel, an image, I call it short videos. So like 15 seconds or less of a video, longer videos over 15 seconds. And then think about polish levels. Do way less of like the really high polished branded feeling stuff. I know brands hate me for this, but I like, trust me on this. Do more of like, this feels like a real Instagram post that my friend posted. And that's like my quote I always say is, you rarely see a viral video that's like, has a logo and is shot in a studio. They're way more someone pulling out their phone really quickly, zooming in on their dog or doing whatever. That's kind of the feel. And we call them chameleon ads. So how do we mix kind of like these direct response principles in ads but make them feel like an organic ad? And that's like really what I would say, like the more you do that towards and focus on that, the better kind of your whole system will be. So lean a bit more away from the branded stuff. It's still nice to have in the ad account, but like 10% of all the ads you make, I would do that branded feel, because that's going to be really bottom of funnel, and it's not going to be as great as those top of funnel kind of efforts you can do. Yeah.
As far as that branded kind of polished look, is that an algorithmic thing, or is there like a moderator, for lack of a better term, kind of going through and looking at it and seeing kind of what that content looks like and then downgrading it or something like that?
Yeah, so Facebook's super sophisticated now, and you can kind of thank or blame TikTok with some of this. They really do look at, the signals now like TikTok does. They've kind of redone a lot of their platforms. So sort of the bigger changes that have happened is groups, communities, pages, all that are sort of going away from Facebook. So a lot of like that interest targeting you used to be able to do with pages that people liked, that's kind of going away. Now they're really looking at what does the ad look like. So if it's me, I saw Kelly, I think.
Kelly, yeah.
Say something about mustaches. For me, if I do a photo of me like doing this and I'm running it on Facebook, they have the metadata. They're going to be like white male, mid-30s, mustache. It looks like an office holding a peace sign. They're going to have all that context. So really when it comes down to it, it's like, how do we give Facebook that context the best and kind of build ads to kind of match that? So sorry, I'm blanking on what your specific question was.
No, you're answering it perfectly. So it sounds like it's coming more from user signals rather than anything else.
Yeah, okay. So it's Facebook's looking, they still will look at like your website, your pixel data of like what your typical customer looks like, but they'll really scan that photo. They'll look at ad copy as well, but then they're also like the newer thing now is they're looking at like signals. So who's responding to this, like TikTok, like who's responding to that video? Are they watching it very long? How are they engaging? Those people that they'll kind of get that data on those people, they'll start targeting more people like that. So that's where like creative variety comes into play. When we have something that looks really branded, your engagement rates are going to be pretty low. Facebook's going to see things like logos. They're going to see it's like a studio shoot. They might have more text on it, or they might have like sale copy. They're going to know it's sort of a sale ad, which might approach engaged audience a bit better than like a new audience. And they'll see that with the signals pretty quickly. So then they'll kind of shift it that way and start targeting people that way. Generally, I would say we usually see a lot of like polished images doing more branded bottom of funnel type of placements or in Facebook. I run a very unique structure. It's like the modern day of running it. I don't really have like top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel as like we used to do years ago. It's more now I'm doing like a bigger testing ad set campaign. So I'm doing concepts in a different ad set. And then I have a scaling basically campaign that has our scaling winners. That scaling winners might have some of those bottom of funnel ads, but I don't necessarily have bottom of funnel targeting like I used to do. It's just now driven by the creative. So if I need more bottom of funnel stuff, I might do more like sale offer static type stuff. If I want more top of funnel, I'll do more like UGC creative, more organic looking, feeling images and videos. Yeah.
That's what I was just going to say. It sounds like UGC is really winning. And honestly, I've seen some studies on this too, where people have done the same exact type of video, same exact copy in the video, but one was highly produced, right? And one was just shot natively from their phone. Actually, I think Andrea showed me this video. And they compared which one got the most engagement. This was just organic, right? Not even just backed by ads. And the one that got more views was the one that looked more organic. So I know, like, as you're talking about creatives, then also the copy comes into play. So I love what you're sharing about creatives and also bringing in some UGC content, user-generated content, if you're not familiar with that term, into your creatives. But I've also heard you talk about ways of capturing the content for the ads too, that maybe some brands haven't thought about, by using their own audience's words back to them. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So we do a lot of reverse engineering, and a lot of the beauty of AI now is I can pull and do this data very fast. I used to spend like days sifting through hundreds of reviews for brands and just reading and writing different personas and use cases and whatnot. I just build this week, basically, I can just upload reviews and like in 5 minutes, get me all of the main angles, personas and everything from that. So yeah, we really are nerdy now, and AI really enables us to move quite a bit faster there to where, I ideally really like to get reviews. We work with a lot of e-commerce brands. So if we have thousands of reviews, we can basically download those, sift through them, use AI tools to kind of pull analytics from those, and we'll get pain points, benefits. We call them trigger moments. So maybe like someone moved to a new house, so now they want to buy new pots and pans, for example, is like a trigger moment. So we kind of extract a lot of this, and then we'll make, even things like word charts and word maps or whatever, the word word clouds, and see the common words that they use. And then instead of us guessing on the ad angles and stuff, we really just reverse engineer. So if we're seeing, 50% of the audience is buying it for this use case, and they're using it for this reason, or they had this trigger moment, we then start there and start making the ads there, instead of like, we just think it's this use case or this ad will do the best. So it's really just, kind of reverse engineering. Why are people saying they love the product? What made them buy? Let's make an ad now that's showing that, and then reflecting it back to those people and then new people as well, to kind of open up that funnel a bit more. Yeah, it's good stuff.
I love that data-driven approach, man. I've seen far too many agencies just kind of go off vibes, and that shit does not work. Speaking of data, man, talk a little bit about the budgeting for this. I know ad prices have changed dramatically recently. So cost per lead or cost per engagement, whatever, has gone up quite a bit. What should if a smaller business is just kind of like starting to dip their foot into the pool, so to speak, what kind of budget should they plan for to be able to get real data? Because you have to have enough data to actually make decisions.
Yeah, I'm a bit more removed from this now, because we're really like bigger spending e-commerce ads. So like, it's harder for me to throw out numbers, but as like brutal as it sounds, I would kind of approach it as like, what are you comfortable burning? As terrible as it sounds, but like, if you're brand new to running ads, you really want to like, gather the data from. So like, I would say bare minimum, test more organically, figure out some stuff that's working organically with like Reels or TikToks, get the data there, save money that way, and then test and kind of amplify those and turn those into ads. A lot of other like small businesses, even some of the e-commerce brands that reach out to us too, it's like their unit economics of the business don't make sense either. So like, think about that too with like you running ads, like what makes sense if it takes you, if it costs you, if I'm throwing out numbers, and it really depends on verticals and stuff, but like nowadays it's like, it's going to be like $30 or more to like acquire a customer. So obviously you can't be selling a $10 download unless if there's upsells and stuff off the back end. So you really want to get clear too on like, what are the economics you can run as a business, and like, how do you make this scalable with ads? So yeah, it gets challenging in ways, but really I view it as like, if you're starting off, lean into organic, try to figure out what works, kind of crack audiences there, try to get something that doesn't have to go like viral, but something that like gets good engagement. And then you can kind of start testing with ads that way. And then I do see some new businesses, they just launch like one ad. Don't do that. Try to make like 3, if you're starting like from bare bones. And then from there, you can set the budget with, whatever you're really comfortable with. I don't want to say $100 a day if businesses can't afford that, but it can be, as low as $5 a day for some people, $10 a day. I'm still doing like Instagram promotion stuff on other pages that I have, and just testing ads in different ways. So don't be shy, but also you really want to think about the like economics of like, if I'm spending money on ads, what do I expect to pay for a customer? What am I willing to pay for a customer? And then what does that look like? Can I get them to buy more times? So really like, to be really competitive in the e-commerce space, but it's very, you can approach this the same for small businesses, is the smartest e-commerce brands know if I get someone, maybe I lose money on the first purchase, but I know someone's going to buy 3 more times in 6 months, and that's worth $200 or $300. Now I might not be worried about losing $100 to get that person, and I can get really competitive in the market that way. So the clearer you can get on like your metrics and your economics, the faster you can kind of figure that out. And then the more, leniency you can maybe have to get it more aggressive with ads. I think that's where it gets tricky with smaller businesses, is like, you might not have a site that's converting or an offer that's converting or something. So it really depends on the business too. But if you have that figured out, I would say the next step would be like, dive into organic, try to figure that out and save money that way, and then try to amplify and start figuring out how you can test from there.
And as you know, that's what we do with clients all the time, is let's test it first organically, because we are typically working with a lot more of the smaller, medium-sized companies that maybe have not ran ads yet, or not even know potentially their customer lifetime value, or have that data in place. So we're like, let's test it out organically first, make sure that it's working, then spend some dollars on it, but also having the data in place that tells the story of what's working and what's not. So we can go back and share exactly what you were saying. Like, hey, did it close a deal or not? What is your cost per click? What is your return on your ad spend? And go from there. But having that data, and then somebody that understands that data. So I think that's why it's really important for somebody to know what they're doing versus just boosting a post, because I mean, vanity metrics, I'm still seeing people measure things on that versus the real data. What are you seeing in 2026 so far?
Yeah, agree there. I mean, we still have some huge brands that I can't mention because of NDAs that are in retailers and big beauty brands, and they're still boosting posts. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Like it feels good, I know, and like half of the time it's so funny and ridiculous too. But it's like because they're siloed and they have a organic social team, so they want boosted posts so they can say they have impressions, and it's like, well, that's not really helping anything. It's just a number, too. So yeah, it's a fun thing. But yeah, I think. As we said, I think it's really like figure out messaging that you can do. And then from there, I think it goes to like variety. So if you've got one ad that's working, I'm blanking. Oh, Austin Armstrong, for example, he's a great like resource to mention here. He figured out like a pathway of like AI videos that does really well, right? So if you're a small business, you got one video that does well. Now make like 3 variations of that. So he now has all these different variations he's trying organically. You can do that organically and get really aggressive and not even waste money on ads, which is great. But then what I would do is if you're starting to launch ads, again, just don't launch that video that did well. Hopefully you maybe tested more, or for your first ads that you're launching, test 3 variations of that ad. So 3 different, I like to test hooks a lot. So what can you say differently? Can you be in a different environment? So, I can start a video right here in front of my backdrop. I can be in my car for a video. I can be in front of a whiteboard. I can be, on my laptop talking or something, or on the move walking outside. Like there's multiple different environments.
Got the max headroom effect here.
Yeah. So like, that's kind of what I would think about the most, is like really think about variety. That's, I think, the biggest thing I see brands missing out when they're starting is like, they're just like, I'm going to make one ad or 2 ads, and they still look really, really similar. So I would say put yourself almost in a different environment for the other video. Because we're seeing even stuff more lately with Facebook where if even Jeremy, if he's got a similar setup to me and we're similar in age with a similar hairstyle, they're going to be like, that's too similar. It's like the same ad. So you almost want different environments too. And that'll help out. Just Facebook figure out what's going to work best. And then you can kind of dive into that more and look at personas and branch out more that way too.
Love that. Since you and Jess have talked a fair amount about UGC, what advice do you have for business owners who want to use UGC in their ads? Like, how do they go find the right, as much as I hate this word, influencers, and kind of guide them in creating something that's going to be useful for them?
Yeah. So the way we do it, we dive into like, first step is like really get in the know on like your research. Why are people buying from you? What are those main angles? We then try to extract those personas in different ways. So depending on the brand, is there like 3 different personas? And then I would try to figure out how can we find people for those personas. You can start too, though, like founder videos do really well. So even like most people are pretty passionate about their businesses. So talking about like what you're doing, what you're rolling out next, what you're excited about can do really, really well. So that stuff is definitely a good play. It can be even like leveraging like bare bones. You can leverage like friends even, or go in public and have people review your service or product if you want. We're starting to work with maybe an air conditioning company that sells units and they do installs. And we're looking at even using someone like that, where they might have their team go and do an install and have their team take out their iPhone and film stuff too. So I think there's a lot of stuff like that. And we've worked with other brands that do like outdoor builds and things in random ways. It's like, can you even leverage your team to help you out here? And then I would say like, there's multiple levels to getting people to help you do the content. We do more of like creators, not like influencers as much, but it's more of like creators, or you can almost look at them as like actors, for lack of a better phrase. But we kind of source people based on a persona. So it might be like a guy that likes barbecuing, that has a family that plays cornhole board or whatever. He's in the Midwest, and we'll try to find those people. And then we'll negotiate kind of rates with them, send them the product and work with them. So you can do that too. And there's other ways as well. So like even some of our brands, they'll have like email sequences to their customers, and almost like getting testimonials and then seeing if you can edit those in different ways. That sometimes can be tricky, but it can be a good start too. Just we see typically if we can get a creator that kind of knows how to film and speak on camera, it kind of helps us get past some of the existing customer you might have that maybe is camera shy or doesn't know how to film or do audio as well. So it just kind of depends on the level of like how much you want to spend too, and what you're kind of capable of doing. But I think most brands, like they can have the founder or someone on their team that's maybe younger, even socially savvy, start doing some content and posting organically, and then looking at making it into ads, which could be good. Yeah.
We do something similar like that for at a much lower scale. But we've worked with like Tracy Phillips that was on the Long Game Show a few episodes ago, where she does testimonial videos remotely for brands. So it's people that already love working with the brand and they're willing to do a testimonial. She records it and it looks super nice, clean UGC content. You would never know that she wasn't right there with them, but it doesn't look like overly produced where they look like camera shy and super nervous, but those videos have turned out great. And then we've also looked at people that already have like trusted built-in communities. So like we're working with an amputee personal trainer that works with exclusively amputees. So he's working with prosthetists and some other clinics that are already serving that community and just getting them to be the ambassadors because they already have this trusted built-in community. So we're like, hey, will you talk about this service, and kind of building a collaboration of sorts. So now it's kind of good content for both sides, and then tying that into the ads on both sides too. So like what you were saying with, you know, having somebody outdoors or whatever and installing things and having people take photos, find something that's collaborative or complementary to your business and create that content. Can be great UGC as well, because you're tapping into a market of like-minded individuals and building collaborations along the way.
Yeah. And you don't have to shy either on like giving people like a coupon or a discount on the next service or something too, to like give you that content, because it is worth something as well. So sometimes that, like a lot of the e-commerce brands, we might build email flows, and they might get $10 for a video or $5 back for like a photo that they take with the product. So yeah, there's stuff like that you can do too. That's like, again, like it's cheap to get that for you. The people already love talking about it. They already have the use case of why they bought it. So that can be a really great approach as well. Yeah.
Agreed.
Hey Jess, I'm gonna grab the steering wheel and jerk us off on a wild tangent here. I'm not going to jerk us off. That's not quite what I meant. But that being said, the amputee company, what exactly do they do?
So he does at-home personal training videos for amputees that don't maybe want to go into a personal training office. So it's called Forged Amputee Wellness. But he does at-home personal training kind of dedicated to the amputee community, and the trainings are personalized to them. So, yeah.
And is this a client of yours?
Yes. Yep.
You got to give him this idea, especially if he works with veterans, because veterans will eat this shit up. Something along the lines of like, we help you get a leg up on your fitness goals or whatever, right? Like vets joke about that kind of shit so bad all the time. Like, I've got a friend.
I don't know if he's quite there yet, but could be. Yeah, but I like that. But yeah, the groups and stuff, also listening in groups, like Tony, what you were saying, definitely, Jeremy, we'll continue that conversation because I love your ideas there. But joining groups where, when you talked about listening earlier, Tony, about like listening to the Google reviews, we found like even listening in groups to hearing, like to your point, Jeremy, like how do people like being spoken to, right? So you're meeting them where they're at and not like pacifying if they don't want to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of language. So
and that can be sometimes a problem too with like smaller businesses. Like my strategy of like getting reviews, you might just not have any reviews, or you have Google reviews and you have 10 or something like that too. So now, like, another great thing about AI is you can then say, search across Reddit and search in all these different forums. And like AI can also, like, if we're talking about amputee physical training, there maybe is threads in Reddit where you can get kind of like all sorts of use cases from them too. So like, don't be shy with all the AI stuff that's out there, because it can be a really good way now to kind of gather that data. There's ways of like scraping 100%. Reviews too. So we might do that with competitors. If like our brand doesn't have enough reviews, is there competitors that have reviews or Amazon listings? But yeah, don't be shy of like saying like, find stuff on Reddit and scrape it and give me the use cases. And that can be a great way to go about it too.
That's brilliant.
Love that. So it's hard to believe it's almost time, but so we want to hit you with some quick questions. But first, while we're teeing those up, the fast lightning round questions, just a quick quick reminder to anyone that wants the replay of this with some more tips from Tony and some videos that you can watch on his YouTube channel, because he definitely produces lots of great content on ads and keeping up with ads. You can drop I want it in the comments here, but we'll have the long game, a recap, Now Marketing Group link, where I will drop that back to you, where you can subscribe to get the recap. But Tony, while we're teeing those up, if somebody's just getting started right now, what should they do first to kind of get started on the right foot with their ads?
Yeah, I think we touched on it quite a bit already. I think as a business, figure out what you're offering. Make sure you have a solid offer, a good service in place for that offer. Get into, again, that review data and seeing like, why are people buying from you? What are your use cases of like why you stand out? Do that review research to find what are the main angles that people have, pain points that you're solving, desires that you're fulfilling with your product or service. Trigger moments, like I said, is a great thing to look for too, is what happened in someone's life. Maybe they were fed up finally, or they were, aching in pain or whatever it might've been. And now they're buying in that way. And then from there, figure out your creative strategy. And I think this is like the biggest part of Meta Ads now, is really like the creative strategy is what fuels everything. So try to gather as much data as you can. Look at that, figure out from there, what's the majority saying, I would say, and lean in there, and then figure out how you can have a few different videos, a few different images to illustrate that with some variety. Don't launch just one ad. Try to launch like 3 or 5 or something if you can. Try to make them look pretty different. A saying I love is like, test the forest, test the trees, test the branches, test the leaves. So do bigger shifts on your first sets of testing, and then see what works and try to maybe double down there a bit more, then get more personas of different people with that same angle. And that's what I would say is the biggest. And then it comes down to then when you launch the ads, trying to look at the data of what's performing and trying to decipher that. And that's a whole other podcast episode, live stream episode alone, just like looking at the data. Yeah. And seeing what you can do there.
I love that, man. Hey, Tony, you've shared so much tremendous insight here, and you sparked a few ideas for me as well. Something I want to point out to anyone who's watching this, whether it's live with us right now or in the replays later, you guys should go follow him. He's got a ton of knowledge to share. You guys are going to benefit greatly from just seeing the insight that he shares. So I encourage you guys to look him up on social, wherever he is, and follow him there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tony, one other thing we're going to put in here that we always remind clients on is, do not let somebody else set up your ads account where they're the owner.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God.
I still sadly have seen, like, I think last week we had a brand that they were like, hey, we'd start a new ad account. I'm like, what? Okay. Yeah. And Facebook sadly does almost, I would say, penalize, or like a new ad account tax, we can call it now, a bit more. You're a bit limited with spend. You might be charged a bit more up front. So not good. So yeah, run your own ad accounts. Don't give people the right to make their own and steal all your stuff. Yeah, not good.
Okay, 2 quick lightning fast questions before we wrap it up. 1 myth about Meta Ads.
That we should care about targeting.
Okay, 1 prediction for 2027 as it relates to Meta Ads.
It's going to be really creative volume is going to be huge. AI personalization is going to be even bigger. I think AI is going to take over everything like it is everywhere. But yeah, that's going to be hopefully better in Meta. I'm thinking like they might have agentic stuff in 2027, maybe. Things happening there. Yeah, they're getting there. They're trying.
They're trying a lot. And best advice for overwhelmed marketers right now.
Yeah. Focus on the controllables, kind of zoom out. See what you can kind of start with. Again, if we're talking marketers as a whole, I think that's a whole other thing. If we're talking ads, that's obviously another realm here. But yeah, I think zooming out, focusing on what you can control, making sure you have a good product or service, and then figuring out kind of the strategy from there. Use AI tools to help you too, for sure. But yeah, try to be methodical, strategic, use data.
Use data, don't guess.
Yeah,
you heard it here, folks. But thank you, Tony, for your time. Thank you, Jeremy, for your time. And all of you that are watching with us live and are watching the replay, you can join us next week here Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have one of Jeremy's friends in, Mr. Anthony Simone, talking with us next week. So excited for that. But Tony, thank you so much for your time here. We will drop the blog recap on the long game tomorrow on our site. I dropped the link in here, and I will follow up with those of you who dropped a comment that you want it. Make sure it gets into your inbox. Until then, have a great rest of your day, everyone, and good rest of your week. Thanks again.
Awesome.
Take care,
Thank you.
everyone.